From service to strength, from questions to choice, guidance you trust, her vet voice.
Hello, and welcome back to Her Vet Voice, where we help veterans become informed, empowered, and prepared to navigate all things VA. If you are new here, consider subscribing. How are you? And let's get into today's topic. Hello, everyone. I am HVB. Welcome to my channel, and I hope that you had an amazing day. Tonight, we are going to talk a little bit about VA disability claims um, and secondary conditions. Now, one of the things that I see as a consultant for veterans is that the most mistakes are made when it comes to secondary conditions. And so tonight we are going to have Natural and FF here with us, and we are going to get into tonight's topic on secondary service connections and how you can navigate the secondaries and connecting them to your service connected disabilities. So, without further ado, let me welcome FF and Natural to the stage. And then we are going ahead and see who's in the chat and what is happening. And of course, we have a presentation for you guys. So that way you guys can have a little bit of information to take away. So let's see who's here. Everyone say hi to Natural and FF. And of course, Natural and FF, thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you guys had an amazing day, and it's always a pleasure to have you here with us. 66, as always, thank you for joining. Charlton, what's happening? Hope you're doing well as well. Hey, Miss Kay, welcome. Thank you for joining. Hey, my namesake, how are you? What's up to my good brother Craig? I am here live and in color. StreamYard was just circling. I'm here. All right, Desert Trader, how are you? Warren, it's good to see you as well. Betty, how are you? Good evening. Thank you for joining. Vaughn, it's always good to see you. Good evening to all the veterans. If you are new here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. LA Fired Up, how are you? Good to see you as well. And of course, we have the lovely Natural and FF here with us tonight, and we are going to get into the conversation of talking about secondary conditions, okay? Because we are going to continue to show you guys that you have to get a better understanding on secondary conditions. Natural and FF, are you there?
Hi, everyone.
All right. All right. So,
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Grace, good. Thank you for joining. I hope I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I am so sorry. Vet teacher, it's good to see you. Gracie, it's good to see you. FF and Natural is in the house. Yep. We have the amazing ladies here, the experts. So there's a presentation as always when we get started about understanding the secondary conditions. And guys, I want to do this. I want to be able to go through the presentation, and then they're going to answer your questions at the end. So that way we can go into answering questions at the end, and we can floor in the presentation so you guys can get a better understanding. And this can also help you answer some of the questions that you have. Okay. So let's get into the presentation. Before we get into the presentation, Natural and FF, what are the common mistakes that you guys see when it comes to secondary service connections here lately, since they have made the changes with the but-for?
It's my computer tripping.
Your computer tripping? Yeah, I see you keep going.
Okay.
For me, I'm
There you
still
go.
just seeing the evidence portion
Mhm.
where the evidence that's being submitted is inadequate. It's, from my view, generally speaking, it's still the same as far as you submitting the evidence. What's required from the veteran hasn't changed. It
Mhm.
was just the way the rule was expanded. So for me, I'm still seeing where the connections that they're submitting are sometimes a little incredible.
Mhm.
And there is a rule within the VBA, if it's incredible or it lacks merit, that we pretty much don't have to give it thought.
Gotcha.
So when you're submitting your secondaries, you want to make sure that it's reasonable. And again, for me, that's the same issue. It's the evidence isn't reasonable when it's being submitted.
Well, it's about the same for me. That and if they're not service connected for the primary condition,
Mhm.
or just saying everything is secondary to a primary condition. Like, I mean, everything tonight is secondary to my back, or OSA is secondary to this, or it's just a bunch of the same stuff. Like FF was saying, along with the evidence doesn't support the grants.
Before we get into this, another question I have, is it normal the case, or have you seen where a lot of veterans are trying to overload the secondaries to a service-connected disability?
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're in a panic.
Mm-hmm.
And I love social media and what it's able to do as far as, getting information out there. But I think a lot of veterans are panicking. So they aren't taking their time and being as thoughtful when it comes to submitting reasonable claims that have merit. Because you don't want to take all this time just to throw something and see what sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, for some veterans, that is what they're doing. They're just panicking a little bit.
Okay. So I hope you guys are grasping that. I'm not sure you wanted to say anything before we get into this. About the secondary
No.
overload. I see a lot of
No.
service members who are like, hey, I have, for instance, let's say I have sinusitis or rhinitis. I'm going to pack sleep apnea on that. I'm going to pack headaches on that. I'm going to pack a couple of other things on top of this sinusitis or rhinitis, which is overloading the secondary. And now we have the but for is causing more issues. I think you have two things open natural. You have to close out one.
I don't know. Hold on.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, that has been happening
Mhm.
a lot. And again, I know with the information that's, being dispersed and how, again, I just think it's a lot of panic. But if your evidence will win every time. And if we get it wrong, there's an opportunity to come back for us to correct the decision.
Mhm.
But if you are doing what Natural was stating and just kind of, throwing things together,
Mhm.
what's going to happen is ultimately it could affect your credibility
Mhm.
because it doesn't look like the claims you're submitting are with good merit.
Yeah.
Not that, everything has to be perfect, but you want your record to be credible. You want us to believe what it is that you're sending in, your buddy letters and where you were. But if, I had a claim and it was tinnitus caused pes planets. You just have to make sure that what you're submitting again is reasonable and your evidence is going to win it for you every time. And if there's doubt, again, benefit of the doubt does come into play. That can be used to help the veteran if we can't find like the point of origination or something like that. But to just, as you said, overload it with
Yeah.
things that lack merit, just be mindful of what you submit with the evidence for the secondaries or any claim.
Thank you. If you're new and you're just joining, how are you? Thank you for joining. We are going to get into the presentation first before we answer any questions. And Amelia, thank you for joining. You're confused as to what a secondary service connection is. A secondary service connection is a disability that is secondary to your service connected disability. Okay. And Craig, thank you for answering in the chat, but we are going to get started with the presentation. So this was the question that Amelia asked. What is a secondary service connection? It's the health condition caused or worsened by a service-connected disability. For example, service-connected knee injury leading to back pain. The VA can grant benefits for conditions linked to your service-connected disability. Now, let's get into something that is spoken a lot, that there's a lot of confusion when it comes to aggravation. Aggravation means your service-connected disability makes another condition worse. I want you guys to hold on to that. Hold on to what aggravation is. Like, focus on what it is, because the explanation that you guys give for aggravation aggravates me. Yeah, just aggravates me. Okay, listen to what an aggravation is. Your service-connected disability makes another condition worse. The non-service connected condition becomes more severe because of the service connected one. So the VA can compensate you for extra worsening caused by your service connected disability. So we're getting into aggravation, and I want to broaden this a little bit more. If your parents were prior military and you went to a military installation and got care there, your documents can be seen in the VA system, right? So, for instance, if you were a kid and you had bad allergies, you joined the military, and you're saying that the military caused your allergies, but your previous records say that you had allergies before, then guess what? That's not how you're not going to get service connected for that. So you're going to have to be mindful when you are filing for aggravation. Natural and FF, what are the biggest things that you see when it comes to aggravation? To elaborate on this for just a little bit.
I think when they're filing the claim for aggravation, they're fully aware that, hey, this was noted. I came into service with this condition, but generally speaking, they forget that it has to be worsened beyond natural progression. So if you come in with, I don't know, a hip injury, and you're doing, your regular PT, whatever is required of you, you have to make that event far worse than what would have happened in natural life. And I think a lot of times that part gets overlooked. It's not that, oh, it hurts. It was going to hurt whether you were in service or not. But what you do in service has to go beyond natural progression in order for the aggravation to kind of take place. And I think that gets overlooked. What do you say, Natural?
I totally agree with what you said. I couldn't say it better.
But Grace is saying your verbiage helps us tremendously when answering questions. So we're well on our way. Thank you, Grace. All right, so let's keep going. Important court decision is the Spicer versus McDonough. This decision changed how the VA looks at aggravation claims. The question now is, would your condition be less severe if not for your service-connected disability? If yes, the VA may grant the benefit for the aggravated portion. Anything here, natural FF? Or are we just going to keep going when it comes to aggravation with Spicer and McDonough? Or is there anything that you want to interject there?
You could keep going for me.
Okay. How VA reviews these claims, like the simple flow of it, because we get a lot of people that question natural and FF, like, how does it work? How do you guys see it behind the scenes? Do you have a service-connected disability? And this is always the question that they ask. Like the first question they ask here, what is your service-connected disability? What is it connected to? Does this disability cause or worsen another condition, right? And if it worsens the condition, by how much? The VA uses medical evidence to answer these questions, right? So your service-connected disability, do you have one? And then the next question is, does the disability that you have cause or worsen another condition? And then it asks, by how much does it worsen that condition? This is how the VA reviews these claims. Take that into consideration. So let's look at the evidence that's going to help your claim. Now, medical records always show changes in your condition, right? It's documented by your provider and it can show the changes in your condition. You can also get statements from a doctor explaining how your conditions are connected. On top of that, you can have your own statements to make sure that you document your symptoms and your limitations. Now, the medical records showing the changes in your condition are very important. Remember, we in the slide before, you had to put, does this disability cause or worsen another condition? And if so, how much does it worsens? By how much? Now, when you are documented when it's documented in your medical records, the doctor can show the stages of how the conditions continue to get worsened. The statements from your doctor explaining that how the conditions are connected to your service-connected disability, along with your statements to show how this thing affects your life. What symptoms do you have, and what limitations does it cause on your daily life? Anything, ladies, or I'm moving forward?
No, I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
All right. So let's talk about the VA exams. The VA may schedule an exam to understand your conditions, right? The examiner looks at how your service-connected disability affects other conditions. They explain whether one condition cause or worsen the other. I don't even know if I want to get into this tonight because this is going to be a lot of conversation here, right? So I get a lot of people that sends me tons of emails. Y'all know I get a lot of emails. People ask questions all the time. And I get the question of, well, what if I told the examiner and the examiner didn't document what I told them, or the examiner does not thoroughly look through my medical records to see the how much my symptoms have worsened. Now, what do you say to this, FF and Natural, if the examiner did not look through the medical records to see that it has worsened and hasn't documented it to the level of what it should be? What matters should the veteran take into their hands? Because I see a lot of veterans saying, well, I did say this and they didn't write it down. And I know that the late statement comes into play, but most veterans will go in and be like, oh, well, I had this and this and this, and I told my examiner this and this and this, but it's not documented, but it's in the medical records and it was overlooked. What do you suggest that the veteran do?
If they go to the exam and Generally speaking, the evidence that the examiner is using is evidence that, the VBA sent over to make sure it, correlates with your claim. Now, you can take additional evidence. It's just that the examiner may look at it, they may not. They're definitely not going to upload it, or at least they aren't supposed to.
Mhm.
But if this is information that you just aren't sure if you've sent it in already, just upload it again, because at the end of it, the rater is the one who's going to make the decision. And
Yes.
if the rater can see, like, oh, the examiner didn't take, this blood pressure log into consideration, or whatever the other evidence is, the rater is able to send that back
Mhm.
for clarification. Says, hey, the veteran submitted XYZ. It doesn't look like you took it into consideration, when you were providing your rationale.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to blame the examiner, because again, your decision is being made by your rater.
Correct.
But if you get your decision back and you don't see where that evidence was included, you can then submit a notice of disagreement, or you can do an HLR, or high level review, that simply says this evidence was overlooked during my rating decision, for XYZ. I submitted a personal statement, I submitted a log. Whatever information we missed is what you want to make sure you highlight in your notice of disagreement or your high level review. But that is an option that you have, because all of the information that is material or relates to your claim
Mhm.
is supposed to be reviewed. And make sure you pay attention to the evidence section once you get your decision back, to make sure all that information was included.
That makes sense. All right, we're going to keep moving on. This is an example here. You have a service-connected ankle injury, and because of the injury, you walk differently, right? So this causes hip problems over time. The VA may grant the secondary service connection for the hip condition. Now, you had a service-connected ankle injury, and because of the injury, you walk different. Now, because of you walking different, it affected your hip and caused problems over time. So now the VA may grant the secondary service for the hip condition because of the ankle injury that started it. That's a simple example for you guys to understand. Now, another example of aggravation is you already have headaches before service. Your service connected neck condition makes your headaches occur more often. Now, the VA may grant you benefits for the worsening of the headaches due to the neck condition. All right. So, this is how you can connect the aggravation based on the Spicer versus McDonough changes. Now, let's look into if the VA can't find a baseline. What if the VA can't find a baseline? Now, the baseline here, and I know you guys have not really heard a lot of conversation about baseline, but the baseline has always been worded in in the guidance, right? The baseline is the level of your condition before it was worsened. Now, if the VA can't find one, they look at the earliest available medical evidence, right? And this ensures that the veteran isn't penalized for missing records. So, for instance, we go back to the headaches, right? The baseline for the condition. If the VA can't find one, they're going to go back and look in your documents to see if you mention anything concerning your headaches, anything surrounding the headaches, to make sure that you aren't penalized because they can't find the baseline for your condition. FF, do you want to interject here in any way?
Yeah. So I don't want you all to worry about the baseline, because even if the examiner couldn't determine what the baseline is,
Mhm.
that's a rating concern, not a service connection concern.
Mhm.
So don't be too overly focused on that. Like, it won't deter the service connection. It's just a rating issue as to find out what we're going to do next for the evaluation and what can we use as the baseline, but it's not a deterrent for a service connection.
Anything natural?
Actually, yeah, I want to disagree with that one. In the manual, and it's I think it's coming up. This falls under the Spicer versus Allen. So if on the secondary, if the examiner cannot determine a baseline for a non-service connected disability, even though you may have a positive secondary medical opinion, it's a denial because the baseline cannot be determined, and it's in the manual.
Yeah, that's correct for the non-service connected. I thought we were talking about the regular, but yeah, that's right.
So a baseline, as FF stated earlier, basically they're trying to determine if your primary disability caused your current disability to be aggravated more than it would be if you just didn't have basically another disability aggravating it. I guess that's the way I want to word it. But I personally don't really like the new law. I mean, it's good and it's bad, but I've seen more denials this way.
Wow.
Just in my opinion. I can't speak for anybody else. Just in my opinion, I've seen a lot of more denials come based on the baseline. So I don't
Go
know.
ahead.
What about you, FF?
Yeah, so I think they, generally speaking, just keep in mind that if it's a non-service connected disability that you're trying to establish, and that one appears as though it's a little tougher if there is no baseline. The actual aggravated disability that you have, that standard is typically the same because we have to determine where it started, where did it come from, what was the level of impairment before, because it's service connected. Now you can have a non-service connected disability that gets aggravated, and that's what Natural referenced earlier, that if we can't determine it, that will be denied. So it's two. It's your service connected disability and then the non-service connected one that was aggravated. And I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not. Just try to think of it like my hip was already injured. So for that, typically we'll have a baseline. And then now your hip was affected, and let's say, it altered your gait or your knee. So that would be your non-service connected. And if we weren't able to establish the baseline for the hip, that would be a denial. I hope that made sense.
I hope it makes sense to you guys. It made sense to me, and I hope it made sense. All right, let's go. So, Natural, do you want to go into this a little bit here, or you just want me to go over it and then we'll get into it? I'll go over it. We'll get into it. So, service connected on a secondary basis requires a showing of causation, and this is establishing a causation for secondary service connected. So the service connection on a secondary basis requires a showing of causation. A showing of causation requires that the secondary disability is shown to be the result of what would not have occurred but for a secondary disability. Y'all, and we are not meaning to confuse you tonight, but this is what it states, and you guys got to get it. You have to get it, right? So to establish the causation, the primary disability needs not to be service connected or even diagnosed at the time that the secondary disability is incurred. So what is one of the examples that you we have here is that if a service connection was granted for a back disability with radiculopathy effective in 2015, credible evidence would show that the veteran has had a 20-year history of back pain and progressively worsening the radiculopathy dating back to roughly 2001. The formal diagnosis of the radiculopathy was not made in 2010. Are you guys understanding? FF Natural, do you want to get into this a little bit, or?
I think I'll just wait until, I think I'll wait.
Okay. So another example is if your service connection was granted for a shoulder disability in 2016, stating that his early symptoms of radiculopathy caused him to lose his balance, fall, and tear the rotator cuff in 2008. He then provided medical opinion linking his rotator cuff tear to a fall and the fall to sensory impairment and difficulty of what is that? I can't even see. Hold on, y'all. I got to make this bigger. I got to go to the bigger screen. Proprioception due to early symptoms of radiculopathy. So the result is that at the medical opinion that it was established the causation for the rotator cuff tear in the shoulder due to the radiculopathy, the requirements of the service connection on a secondary basis are satisfied. Now, although the radiculopathy was not formally diagnosed until after the fall, the credible evidence adequately established a history of back problems and a gradual onset of the radiculopathy dating back to 2001. A finding of causation does not require that the primary disability be formally diagnosed at the time the secondary disability is incurred. Now, additionally, although the service connection had not been established for the back disability and the radiculopathy at the time of the fall and the subsequent rotator cuff tear, a finding of causation does not require that the primary disability be service connected at the time that the secondary disability was incurred. Now, that was a lot. Go ahead, ladies.
It's just going to sound like a lot. I think I'll wait until.
Okay, we'll keep going. Natural, anything? I'll keep going on this because we'll get into the discussion after. Now, let's get into establishing a baseline to show a non-service connected disability was aggravated by a service connected disability. Now, in order to grant the service connected disability on the basis of a non-service connected disability being aggravated by a service connected disability, the baseline level of severity of the non-service connected disability must be established by one, medical evidence that was created before the onset of the aggravation, the earliest medical evidence created between the onset of the aggravation and the receipt of medical evidence establishing the current level of severity for the non-service disability. Or you can have other credible evidence, including lay evidence that support establishment of the baseline. Now, when you're establishing a baseline, which is the pre-aggravation level of severity for the non-service connected disability, it is necessary to determine which part of the disability can be considered as resulting from the service connected disability under 38 U.S.C. 1110. Now, you take note that the lay evidence on its own is not going to be sufficient to establish the baseline level of severity, but the lay evidence can support the establishment of the baseline and may trigger the requirement for further development as discussed in the M21-1 Part 5, Subpart 2D1D. Okay, it is important to note that the baseline level of severity for the non-service connected disability is required to establish a service connection and to determine the appropriate evaluation to assign as discussed in the M21. Now, guys, we are going to go over this and then we'll get into it after. So when you're developing evidence of baseline for the disability in a non-service connected aggravation claim, the responsibility for submitting the evidence is to establish a baseline level of disability for a claim for a secondary service connection based on aggravation of the non-service connected disability. Bias service-connected disability ultimately rests with the claimant. However, the VA has a duty to assist the claimant in obtaining evidence necessary to substantiate a claim, which may include requesting an examination and or medical opinion when it is warranted. Now, when we look at credible evidence, it's adequate to establish the baseline level of disability, and it must show its level of severity. Before the aggravation by the service-connected disability, or as soon as possible after the aggravation, but before the date of receipt of the evidence establishing the current level of severity of the non-service connected disability. Now, it's important to note that the establishment of a baseline level of disability is a legal determination made by the rating activity based on all evidence of record, including the results of any examination and our medical opinion deemed necessary. Now, when necessary, in accordance with guidance in the M21-1, it is necessary to request a medical opinion, examination, and opinion to include a review of the claim folder by the examiner to establish whether the increased manifestations of the service-connected disability are the result of or would not have incurred but for a service-connected disability. Now, we're still in the baseline, and the information that must be included in the examiner's report for a service-connected based on an aggravation. Now, the examiner must separately address all of the following medical issues in order to be considered adequate for rating a claim for secondary service-connected based on the aggravation. The examiner must report the current level of severity for the non-service connected disability and an opinion as to whether there has been an increase in the severity of the non-service connected disability that would not have occurred but for a service connected disability, or the examiner must report that the non-service connected disability would have been less severe but for a service connected disability included where the service-connected disability has interfered with or impeded treatment for the non-service-connected disability, and an adequate analysis with medical considerations supporting the opinion. All right, I'm going to take a break there. And Natural FF, do you want to go into that? I'm not looking at the comments, guys, because there's just too many, and I'm trying to focus on this right now until we get through this. Do you want me? I'll just keep going until we get to the end of this. But I wanted to give them a little break. This is a lot. So when you're handling the non-service connected aggravation claims, when a baseline cannot be established, and this is what we were talking about earlier, in accordance with the 38 CFR 3.310B, if no baseline can be established, no aggravation can be demonstrated. When a baseline cannot be established, a claim based on aggravation of a non-service connected disability by a service connected disability must be denied. Now, it is important to note a claim alleging that a service connected disability has aggravated a non-service connected disability should only be denied based on the lack of baseline evidence after the VA's duty to assist has been fulfilled. Now, if the VA's duty to assist, it requires development for evidence regarding the baseline level of severity, which may include requesting an examination and our medical opinion when warranted. Now, note, do not assume a baseline of 0% when a baseline cannot be established by the available evidence. If no baseline can be established after all necessary development efforts are complete, the decision maker should explain in the rating decision narrative why the degree of the aggravation cannot be determined from the available evidence and that the claim based on a non-service connected aggravation must accordingly be denied. Now, when they are assigning an evaluation for a non-service connected disability that was aggravated by a service connected disability. So this is when you get your evaluation. When you're granted a service connected granting a service connection for a non-service connected disability on the basis of aggravation by a service connected disability, the rating activity must determine the extent of the aggravation in order to assign the appropriate evaluation. The evaluation assigned will reflect the difference between the current and the baseline level of severity. So to determine the extent to which, if any, a non-service connected disability was aggravated by a service connected disability, it determines the percentage evaluation that will be warranted for both the baseline and the current levels of severity for the non-service connected disability under the rating schedule, and deduct the baseline level of severity of the non-service connected disability from the current level to calculate the appropriate evaluation to assign. No, this policy only applies even when the current level of severity of the non-service connected disability is 100%, including temporary 100% evaluations assigned on the 38 CFR 4.29 and 38 CFR 4.30. Now, when you have an aggravation with a 0% evaluation, aggravation of a non-service connected disability is established by any increase in severity shown to be the result of a service connected disability. As discussed in the M21-1, Part 5, Subpart 2, D.1a, regardless of whether it will result in a scheduler increased evaluation. When there's competent and credible evidence of an increase in severity of the disability from the established baseline, but the current and baseline disability would be assigned the same level of evaluation under the rating schedule, and grant the service connection and assign a non-compensationable evaluation. To justify service connection, the degree of the disability after aggravation does not have to be at least one level of evaluation higher than the baseline. So we're talking about handling the non-service connected aggravation claims when a baseline cannot be established. So in accordance with 38 CFR 3.310B, if no baseline can be established, no aggravation can be demonstrated. And I think we went over this earlier, but when a baseline can't be established, a claim based on aggravation of a non-service connected disability by a service connected disability must be denied. A claim alleging that the service connected disability has aggravated a non-service connected disability should only be denied based on the lack of baseline evidence after the VA duty to assist has been fulfilled. So it is the VA's duty to assist, and they require development for evidence regarding the baseline of the severity, which may include requesting an examination and a medical opinion when warranted. All right, so let's get into all of that I just went over. And I know you guys have tons of questions, but where do you want to begin, FF and natural? Let's go back a little bit here. Hold on, guys. Let's go back to where I started. So let's go back to establishing the causation for the secondary service connected. When you're establishing the causation for the primary disability, it said that you did not need disability need not to be service connected or even diagnosed. I think veterans get that a little bit misconstrued. Can you explain that more in detail?
Okay. Okay. Oh, go ahead, FF.
Now, I was just going to say, generally, speaking, your causation would be, I don't know, maybe if it's something in service where it showed the injury, if you had, symptoms after service, whether that be, I don't know, like your ankle and maybe you had, imaging x-rays or something to that effect where you didn't have an official diagnosis, but we could see the where the causation is from, is what that part means. Like if we don't have a formal diagnosis, we have enough evidence to where we can establish causation for that particular condition.
Go ahead, Nacho.
So I missed the question. I'm sorry because I
So
was
I was talking about
putting my computer back up.
when it speaks about establishing the causation, and they reference the primary disability need not to be service connected or even diagnosed at the time that the secondary disability is incurred. I think that veterans misconstrued that for going back to the previous secondary conditions that they could just simply just, hey, this is secondary to this. And can you go into that a little bit?
Well, in my opinion, I don't all totally agree with that slide, but because a primary condition has to be service connected in order for a secondary to be considered. But sometimes primary conditions are like pending, service connection, and people claim secondaries to a condition that's pending service connection. But I think what happens is sometimes people don't understand, sometimes the condition that they're claiming as a secondary sometimes existed before the primary. And so we have to look at when that secondary condition, based on the medical evidence that we have or the veteran has submitted, occurred. So let's say they're claiming migraines to tinnitus, right? And we go look in the STRs and we see, well, the veteran had complaints of migraines way before tinnitus was established. Well, what we could do is go back and ask for the migraines on a direct versus, a secondary. Or if you saw it in, like you said, if they were, their parents were in the military and they were treated, say they were playing football and they got a concussion or something like that, and they were treated for that. Then, that goes into the realm of, TBIs and, headaches coming from that. So that will be going into the aggravation. And so it's just the evidence points us in the direction that the veteran can claim it any way that they want. That's why they say it's up to the rating board to establish service connection when it comes, and an evaluation when it comes to the way that conditions are service connected. So regardless of how you claim it, if we see another avenue that will get you there, chances are we're going to take that avenue regardless how you claimed it.
All right, thank you for that.
Really quickly, what Natural just mentioned about, like, if you were, seen prior to your enrollment into the service, and let's say it's not noted, then that would go under the presumption of soundness. So that would be the military saying, you're whole. We're going to take you as you are. So then let's say, again, it's not noted, but then later you're claiming your knee. And then so they get the records and then they see that you had the knee injury prior to enrollment, prior to you joining the service. That's the presumption of soundness. I just want to make sure you all are aware of that versus the aggravation. Your aggravation is noted. Your presumption of soundness isn't noted. So sometimes, you you'll forget to mention things that are wrong, and then later the VA finds it. So in order for us to rebut it, we just have to prove that it existed before and that it wasn't aggravated. That's it.
All right. I hope you guys are grasping it. We are breaking it down. Okay, so we're going to the part where we are discussing establishing a baseline to show a non-service connected disability was aggravated by a service connected disability. That's where we're at now. So in order, like it said, for you to be granted a service connected in order for you to be in order for them to grant service connection on a basis of a non-service connected disability that's being aggravated by a service connected disability, the baseline of severity has to be established for the non-service connected disability. And that can be established by medical evidence, like we talked about before, and the earliest medical evidence created between the onset of the aggravation and the receipt of the medical evidence establishing the current level of this non-service connected disability severity, right? So you can also submit lay statements, right? But the VA also says that lay evidence on its own may not be sufficient to establish the baseline for the level of severity. So you can submit lay statements as evidence for this, but you also need more support. You need medical evidence to hold up more of the weight to establish a baseline to show that your non-service connected disability was aggravated by a service connected disability. Anything there, ladies? Or did I put it in a way that they can understand?
I think it
Okay.
Yeah, I think it went. I think you said it correctly, but it could come across a little confusing.
Yes.
I guess we'll just wait for the questions.
Okay.
But when you read that, me and FF understand it. You understand it, but
Yeah.
for the average veteran, it's a lot to ingest.
It's a
and
lot.
so
Yeah.
we can break it down, I guess when we get a couple questions about it.
All right. So I'm going to, the next one is when you are developing evidence for your baseline disability in a non-service connected aggravation claim, right? So remember, it's always credible evidence, always. Now, in this portion, they talk about the VA has a duty to assist in reference to obtaining necessary evidence to substantiate your claim. Now, I know when y'all hear the VA has the duty to assist, the VA is not fixing to take a whole day and a half to assist you with this, right? Remember, I told you guys, in order for you to be successful in your claim, you have to work it at your best ability. Okay, you cannot wait for them to say, "Oh, the VA has the right to duty assist me, and they didn't assist me, or whatever." Now they have the right to, they have a duty to assist you, but they're not going to assist you digging all the way down John and Wallaby time, right? So in order for you to get your claim adjudicated and be successful when it comes to developing evidence for your baseline disability in a non-service connected aggravation claim, you have to work the evidence. So you have to have credible evidence to establish that the baseline level of disability must show that it was aggravated aggravated by the service connected disability. Okay, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but I hope you guys understand that part as well. Now, we talked about the information that must be included in the examiner's report for secondary service connected based on the aggravation. Now, the examiner's report must separately address all the medical issues in order for it to be considered adequate for a rating, right? So the examiner must address the current level of severity for the non-service connected disability and also give an opinion as to whether there have been an increase in the severity of the non-service connected disability that would not have occurred but for the service connected disability. The next one is handling the non-service connected aggravation claims when a baseline cannot be established. And I think FF went into this a little bit earlier about what you need to do when the baseline can't be established. The next one is assigning an evaluation for a non-service connected disability that was aggravated. Now, to determine the extent to which the non-service connected disability was aggravated by the service connected disability, you have to meet all the criteria that we talked about earlier, right? You have to have the evidence. Now, the examiner must examine you to make sure that the current level of severity for the non-service connected disability is, all of that has to be evaluated to make sure that you are rated for that, the aggravation. Now, the aggravation with a 0% evaluation, whenever there's competent and credible evidence of an increase in the severity of the disability from the established baseline, but the current baseline and the disability would be assigned the same level of the evaluation on the rating schedule. And I'm sure they'll go into more of this based on the question, because there isn't really like an example that can be given towards this. Handling non-service connected aggravation claims when a baseline cannot be established. We went over that earlier. And now we are here you can submit any evidence related to your condition, your statements matter, and you can request help if needed, assistance in gathering your records. You can get the help from an accredited representative, a VSO. You can go to the va.gov and any local VA office to help you with this. All right, guys, that is the end of the presentation. And now we can get into some questions. And I have to scroll all the way up. So give me some grace here so I can see where we can start with the questions. All right, let's see here. Katie Knowles, how do we know when the VA has deemed your C&P exams, DBQs, and MOs rateable? Can your VSO see that in VBMS?
You talking about a private DBQ, or are you talking about one from a VA contract examination? Is she saying VA?
How do we know when the VA has deemed your C&P, DBQs, and MO rateable? I don't know. Katie Knowles, are you still here? Let me scroll down and see.
If she's talking about, if they're talking about the ones from the VA, once we get the examinations back, and if as the rater and we review it and it's missing any evidence that we need to make a rating decision, or the MO is insufficient, the rater will send it back and cite the reasons why we cannot accept that examination or that MO. And VSOs, yes, they can see.
Yeah. All right, let's see. If a claim is filed direct service connection, then the same claim is filed but secondary, do I maintain my effective date from the first claim, or do I lose it because I filed differently? So if you file it service connected and then you turn around and file it secondary, is that what you're asking?
I think what they're asking is if they file it, and I could be wrong, if they file it direct and we deny it, and then they come back and try to get it secondary, will they lose the effective date from the first denial? And to answer your question, probably not if you file it within 1 year of getting the denial. But chances are the rationale will explain to you why they didn't consider it on a direct. Sometimes you do not have to come back as the veteran as secondary. Sometimes the examiner will tell us, like, what the causation is of that disability. Now, the problem sometimes is they relate it to age, diet, and other stuff.
Other
And
things,
sometimes
medication.
it may it yeah. And so sometimes when I see stuff like, oh, age, diet, stress, just obesity, stuff like that. If I see stress and they are service connected for a mental, I will ask for a secondary medical opinion to that, and I will cite the rationale that the examiner states that it's a possibility that this is related to stress or whatever the case may be. And then so sometimes they give us little clues that we can go back and ask for secondaries without you asking us. Now, not all raters do that, but some of us do. FF, you got anything on this?
No, I agree. Everything you said.
All right, let's keep going. Agree with FF. Desperation causes some vets not to realize that focusing on the primary claim and allowing the secondaries to flow out of them, they're just throwing spaghetti on the wall and hopes it sticks. All right, let's see here. FF and natural. Have you ever seen hypothyroidism or Graves' disease successfully connected to a mental health condition such as GAD or PTSD? I have read medical literature linking.
I see where those conditions can cause one to, have depression or GAD and things like that. The condition itself, so the mental health would be secondary to that. I've seen it that way, if that's what you meant. What about you, Natural?
Yeah, I mean, hypothyroidism. I don't, because typically hypothyroidism is like a 0%. And what about hypothyroidism would cause you to have, that's when the way I look at stuff is you have to be able to explain how something is causing you to have PTSD. You said PTSD. PTSD is one of those things that, to me, that's like a major mental PTSD. So your hypothyroidism would have to be so severe that it would cause you post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, anxiety, depression, yes, but you have to be able to explain how these diseases are causing you. I don't know about Graves' disease that well. I don't know all the symptomology of Graves' disease. It's possible, yes, that they can cause a mental health, such like GAD, or like I said, anxiety or some type of major depressive. But PTSD, but like I said, I'm not the medical examiner. But your evidence would have to be so compelling that yes, those symptoms, I mean, those diseases led to you having GAD. PTSD, I don't know. PTSD to me is, I'm not
So
taking
he
away
said
from your.
stress to the hyperthyroidism and Graves, but as mental health and thyroid disease are two different body systems, I'm guessing that it hasn't had much connection.
Yeah, the
I'm
ones that
not.
I've seen have had like anxiety, depression, especially with Graves. And not that this is the case for everyone, but because it affects the look, they'll go into depression, become withdrawn, because of the sunkenness of the Graves, and the weight, the weight changes and things like that. Sometimes they get, panicked around others due to that. It just kind of depends. But like Natural was saying, I haven't done a PTSD secondary to it, but I have done GAD, anxiety, for those two.
All right, let me go back up here. I saw Desert Raider. Hold on. So, service-connected low back with bilateral radiculopathy, cervical strain with bilateral radiculopathy, BIM at 26.8, sleep apnea secondary, but for overweight due to mobility issues, cervical strain, loss of neck muscle function. What is your question?
What's the question?
What's the question? It does it right there. Let me see here.
Is he trying to say sleep apnea due to obesity, due to the back and cervical?
Cervical strain.
Okay, FF, you can have this one.
Yes, you can make a claim for it that way. You would say your sleep apnea secondary to your obesity, but for your back and your cervical strain, as you're unable to be mobile, and use that as a reason for the increased weight gain. And then we just have to see what the examiner would say, but they would send that opinion over for obesity, but for, your neck, your back. But you can write it up that way.
All right. Next question is natural FF. How many conditions should we tie to a primary condition? This is a great question. We talked about this earlier.
I always say, y'all know my favorite saying is, you can claim whatever you want to claim. I'm not here to tell anybody how many conditions to claim to anything. What I'm saying is, it has to make sense. It has to make logical sense. If I'm only service connected for tinnitus, I can't say my ankle or my back is secondary to tinnitus, unless your tinnitus has caused you to fall or something like that, and it's developed to vertigo or something like that. But it has to logically make sense when y'all make secondary claims. Some of these secondaries I get, I'd be like, how? Like, why would you think that will work? But again, you are welcome to claim whatever you want, but just make sure that it makes logical sense when you claim it. FF?
I absolutely agree. Just, there's really not a number. Just make sure the evidence is there for whatever condition you're claiming. Make sure it's plausible, because again, you don't want it to seem incredible, because then it'll get dismissed for lack of merit. And we don't want that. We want all of our claims to be sound and based on reasonable evidence that we have of the record, or something that we can show. Let's see, like over time, if you had, I don't know, signs and symptoms of maybe undiagnosed diabetes, and then your leg later had to be amputated or something, but the evidence needs to be sound. It cannot be ridiculous, because that's not going to look well in your favor, and you want to make sure your record stays credible. We want to be able to believe what you say, and the statements of your buddies and your friends, and just your personal statements overall. We want to be able to believe your record. So just make sure it's reasonable. But there's no limit.
How much medical literature should be cited when trying to demonstrate a secondary condition between two body systems?
From the veteran?
I would say from the veteran. Yeah, I think they're using peer review articles.
I mean, you could submit. Here's the thing. You could submit. I've seen article after article after article that links things. The examiner will come back and say, it's less likely because even though you have medical literature to support, it's about the medical evidence that you have that supports the nexus. You can have a million articles that support a nexus, but if you lack the evidence to support the nexus,
it's the evidence, guys. AF Veteran said he's seen some crazy claim secondaries. Absolutely. All right, let's see. Hold on, Craig. For example, if I file OSA as a single claim with no secondary, then I file it OSA secondary to depression with obesity as the intermediate step, the OSA single gets denied. But if I file it secondary, oh, Richard, okay. Pest Planters diagnosed before service and had an issue in service with Pest Planters. Great example. Thank you. I haven't put a claim in about the hernia surgery. All right, Charlton, the question, can another stressor, mental health event at a different unit assigned be a PTSD aggravation? Great question.
So I would say, well, I'm assuming, I don't know if you are reserves and National Guard or regular.
He was in the Navy, Charles, in the Navy.
Okay, so can another stressor? I mean, any stressor can cause PTSD. It just, the examiner has to relate that stressor, and that stressor has to be able to be corroborated. So if it doesn't have nothing to do with combat, typically if you have PTSD due to combat, that's automatic because it's fear and easing. If you get diagnosed with PTSD due to like personal trauma, we do that. But if it's something like, hey, I saw a person commit da 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 da, I don't like to say, but you know what I mean. And the examiner links your PTSD to that exact stressor, we would have to be able to corroborate that stressor before we could service connect the disability. If we send it for a records research and we cannot corroborate it, then we cannot give you service connection for it.
All right, let's question. I had my left hip, which is service connected, replaced. Years later, I had to have the right hip, which is not service connected. Can I claim my right hip secondary, I'm sure, to the left hip?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And the person who said about their past planets, if you had past planets before service, that's what we were talking about, the aggravation, like FF were saying. If you didn't mention it before service, then you know that's called presumption of soundness. But if it's listed like on your enlistment exam and you claim it, because typically some people come in with past planets or plantar fasciitis and it's like asymptomatic and they have complaints in service, then what we do is we will send for an aggravation exam. If that aggravation exam comes back and says it wasn't aggravated beyond its natural progression, then it's a denial. If it says it was aggravated beyond it, then it's a grant.
So, Richard, why do they not audio record these exams? Wouldn't that help both sides? So, when you're audio recording, when it comes to medical, it is a HIPAA violation on both sides. So, you would not want to do that. So, do not go in there recording those people and then you guys come to social media and say every single thing. Don't record. Just annotate. If you want to, take a pen and paper and just jot down some stuff, but don't record.
Let me say this real quick for a direct situation. I'm going to use the OSA as an example. If you didn't have a diagnosis of OSA in service and you didn't have a sleep study and you've been out of service for X amount of years, please don't try to claim it as a direct, because you're gonna probably end up with a denial. If you feel like you can get it secondary, lead with that. Because if you lead with that and we find that it was something in your records, we're automatically gonna ask for it on a direct. You guys need to lead with what you think will be more beneficial for you trying to get service connected. I see people claim this laundry list of stuff, and you go look in their STRs and there's nothing, not nothing. And I'm like, I had to spend all this time denying, all these contentions. And then there's things in there that they could have possibly got service connected for if they had just took the time to go look, or get a copy of their records. So this is why we tell you to strategize and work with people who help veterans put together their claim in a strategic way, because it saves you time, stress, multiple file, it just makes it up. Yes, it just makes the process smoother for you.
Yeah.
So if you know that you don't remember, I understand some people have been out for many, many years, but what I've been seeing is a lot of veterans are claiming things, and the examiner is like, oh no, it's not due to service, it's due to post service, depending on their job and what they are currently doing. So a lot of people who have they were parachutists, airborne, and stuff like that. That is a way to, a segue to, back conditions, knee conditions, ankle conditions from the jumps. We can use that MOS, even infantry. We can use that MOS, even if they wasn't seen in service, for back, knee, ankle conditions and stuff like that, to ask the examiner, is the current condition, at least as likely as not, due to their MOS. So there's different ways, but you guys have to be smart about the way that you claim these, make these claims, because you're going to make yourself more stressed out and more frustrated after every time you file something. It's a denial, and then you get a VSO, or then you come to HERVETS, or then you come to Craig, or all the gentlemen that we had on the panel, and now they're stuck because now they got to dig through all of this to debunk all that, and try to help you regroup, and it's just a little bit stressful for everyone involved when that happens for you.
All right.
Yeah, and if you can't remember everything, just kind of document the times that you did have your symptoms, or how long you've been experiencing the symptoms, because I want you all to remember that it's continuity of symptoms, not treatment. So just make sure you fill in the gap. Yeah, I got out 10 years ago. I didn't go to the doctor for whatever the reason. Maybe you didn't have insurance. It doesn't matter. Just fill in the gap with the symptoms that you had up until the time that you're making the claim. Because if you didn't get treatment, that's okay, but your symptoms need to be persistent. Okay.
All right, let's keep going here. Grace, specific, how do you rate onset latency conditions if all of the diagnosis, DM, ischemic heart disease, and CKD all diagnosed at once? The doctor referred to specialists, Ingemin and Navy. Do we list each chemical or hydrocarbons, etc.? So how do we rate?
Well, the ischemic heart disease and CKD would be rated separately. Is that diabetes? What's the other one up there?
Chronic kidney disease?
Yeah, DM. I'm assuming it's diabetes, ischemic heart disease, and chronic kidney disease. Those will be rated separately.
But all were diagnosed at once. It doesn't matter at first if they're all diagnosed at the same time. Do we list each chemical? What do you list it where?
You can just say it's through the terror. Just
Mhm.
claim it due to toxic exposure. You don't have to list each chemical. If you're claiming this due to your MOS of injument, and that's due to terror. So you'll just list the condition and then you'll say toxic exposure or just write terror.
All right. I hope you got that, Grace. Let me know if you I can't see at the bottom, so I'll scroll down in a little bit. The evidence the examiner sees is contingent upon what the VSR made available in the ESR. Is that correct?
Yes. Typically what I do is if I always look at the exam request to determine if all the evidence was sent for the examiner to review. Sometimes we get late flowing evidence, like if the veteran had PMR, private medical treatment records somewhere else, and we didn't get them, but we had the 41, 42, and I get a negative medical opinion. I will defer the case. I won't rate it because we don't have the PMRs. The PMRs may change the outcome, and then I will send it back for. Matter of fact, I had a case like that the other day where it was a negative, but we got private treatment records in. We sent the veteran to the exams prior to us getting the medical evidence, and all the evidence came back negative. So I sent it back with the PMRs attached to and got the examiner to do a whole new medical opinion and review, and it came back in favor of the vet. But again, no rating activity should take place if we don't have all the medical evidence of record, especially if the examiner, at the time the examination took place, and the examiner does not have all of the evidence.
Absolutely. Beautiful.
Can't do a METS test, but had a heart nuke stress test. How does that play a part?
I can do an interview-based METS if you aren't able to do the
METS
Meds
test.
testing, yeah.
All right.
I had one today was an ACE, and I had to stage it because somehow we overlooked the AO exposure in Guam, and so I had to stage from 2022 because he had 5 to 7 METs, and then in 2025 he went down from 3 to 5 METs. But yeah, you can do interview-based METs.
All right, Desert Radar. Wouldn't baseline defer to your MEPS entry exam where you were deemed fit for service?
Well, in theory, all veterans, all
We're fit for
soldiers
service. Yeah.
come in at 100%. Now, there are some people who come in with disabilities that have to get a waiver, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And so sometimes what we do is we'll say at the time of entry, because of the waiver, 0, because you're saying you had someone go in and say, oh, even though the person has this, they are fit for duty. So technically at that time, you're still 100%. You just have a disability or a illness that is not causing you trouble at the time, right? So if you get into service and like asthma, some people can have asthma, but it's triggered by things, right? It can be exercise induced. It could be, if you cut the grass or anything like that. And we all know when you went to basic training, you did everything, right? So a lot of people go in and they start running, exercising, and they have asthma attacks immediately. right?
Yeah.
So at the time, the aggravation is considered, or your condition is a zero, what we say 0%, because when you came in, a doctor examined you and said, hey, they're fit for duty, they're not taking no medications, they're not taking nothing, they just have a diagnosis of this. So at that time, you're still considered 100%. That's why we have to ask for the aggravation examination.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we would get that's different. The baseline for an aggravation and the baseline for a non-service connected disability are two totally different things. And that's what FF was saying earlier. And I misunderstood what we were talking about. But a pre-existing condition is a aggravation examination. A condition that developed from a primary condition that you had already, like if you have asthma and you develop migraines from having asthma or taking the nebulizer or whatever it is that you take, that primary condition caused you to develop migraines. That's what the non-service connected is.
And this is premium content. So y'all need to hit the like button, not for me, but for your veterans out there who are not going to see this because you did not hit the like button. But anyway, let's go. I have had to deny many times because of no baseline medical evidence. We're not thinking of considering having to have a baseline. Yes, and this is why we talk about the baseline tonight. We definitely. Hold on, I got to go down to, okay. Why do they date secondaries only on the day they received the claim and not back to the intent to file?
Oh, technically, they're supposed to.
They're supposed to. So something is not right there in that.
Yeah, that only happens, well, let me not say only, but that would generally happen if the medical evidence for some reason didn't show the original diagnosed date, because sometimes you'll get a diagnosis from the examination. So I don't know if maybe the evidence wasn't uploaded properly, but generally, if you have that condition at the time of the intent to file, that should be the date. The date entitlement arose would be, when you are seeing the examiner or when the medical evidence showed that it came into play. So I don't know what went wrong there, but it should be the intent to file if that condition exists. So I'm sorry, I'm not sure what happened.
So Annette is in the 100 club.
Awesome.
Congrats. All right, let's go. Congratulations, Annette. All right. Let's see here, guys. I'm looking for. I know y'all better hit the like button. Even though HGV's community has grown immensely, she still shows all of you ultimate personal. Yeah, y'all better hit the like button. All right. Where? Oh, okay.
Go back to that question. Go back to that. Annette. Annette.
The VA text you?
Annette.
3 other letters? What other letters? What other letters you waiting on, Annette?
Oh, they probably did the text for when you sign up for notification of your claim letters. Maybe that's what she got.
Let me help y'all. Y'all always use this. I'm PNT. That is a text that generates in VBMSR.
Oh,
Whenever we give somebody 100%, we select, is the veteran permanent and total due to their service connection disability. That's the only reason why it says that in there. Nobody is really technically. I just like to tell y'all that, because if that was true, there would not be proposal to reduce all the time or
Lord,
reductions.
that we have been
Because
dealing.
you guys, when you get y'all 100%, y'all don't like to stay out of our queue. Y'all like to come back.
She
Y'all don't stay out of our queue. So therefore, why do y'all say y'all PNT? Because if y'all come back and there's some improvement, guess what? That 100% goes away. So
y'all, please. I don't even want to file a secondary claim anymore. Richard.
File so you are properly rated. But if it's just like a tool or something that's not, life altering, then, it's okay, but definitely get properly rated.
So, Chelsea, you were saying that your mental health baseline would be established at the end of boot camp with the first unit evaluation report.
So, guys, y'all mixing things.
Mhm.
Listen. The rec service connection has nothing to do. Let me sit up. Hold on. Baseline that we're talking about, it has to do with more along the lines of the secondary arena. Anything that we can directly connect to service is what we do first.
Mhm.
Right? And then we go over there into the secondaries and the presumptions and all of that, the terrors and all of that. So don't get so caught up in thinking everything got to have some sort of base. When it's a direct service connection, you have to meet the 3 elements. So if you want to consider that a baseline, I guess. But if you had, for your situation, if you had some issues that happened in once you left basic, or when you were in basic and then you went to your first unit and you had some issues, if you went and had any type of mental health treatment, that would start your paper trail, right?
Mhm.
And then you would be able to claim, and then you're having, treatment now, and you have a diagnosis now, then you would be able to claim it. Your problem would be if you don't have the evidence to corroborate your stressor on what happened. If you have a unit report or evaluation that talks about the incident, then by all means, yes, file the claim, because that corroborates what you're saying happened.
All right, let's see. I'm looking for
And don't confuse it with the regular secondary. Like if you hurt your back and then you get rated for, bilateral lower extremity neuropathy or whatever, that's just a regular secondary because it's a but for the back. So the baseline doesn't apply in your traditional or regular secondary. I hope that makes sense.
who's Melanie? Who Melanie is? Who this? Okay, let's see here. Hey, J. Lark Jr. Good evening, ladies. I'm confused on the baseline. What baseline would need to be established when filing MDD secondary to chronic pain?
Like what I just said, like your traditional secondary, that's the but for, don't, the baseline won't apply. The baseline is going to come into play where there's aggravation. Then you're going to worry about a baseline because what was it prior to? How did we make it worse? But if you're back and you have a secondary to that, your major depressive disorder, that's just a regular secondary. Because if it wasn't for your chronic pain, you wouldn't have the MDD. That's the traditional but for due to. So when you think of baseline, try to think of it, how did this get worse? Where did it start? It won't apply for your traditional secondary.
Please, when you when you file your claim, please don't just say MDD secondary to chronic pain. Chronic pain, what? Your back, your neck, your knees, what? Chronic pain. Are you saying all of your disabilities are causing, are you service connected for your back? What is it? Because
Yes, be clear. Because
be
some
clear.
raters will call and some won't. You just want to be clear and you want to submit a good claim.
Gotta have solid evidence, All right, let's see here. I'm looking for another question. Y'all just Bev Sporty Red said this baseline stuff is too much. No wonder we're being denied. It's just too much. Most VSOs and claim consultants can't do the research or can't get the records. That's why I DIY, period. Well, who can get your records? What VSO can get your records, Charlton? What happened?
Well, that's where the VA comes in under duty to assist.
So you can get your own records from NPRC as well.
Typically the records are supposed to be with your wherever region you're in, it's supposed to be. But hey, depending on when you were in the military. But yeah, I know you guys listen. It goes like this when new stuff happens. The manual get updated and we get an email.
That's it. That's all.
And we're supposed to,
figure it out.
Yeah. And then we'll have here's a class. Okay. Here's a PowerPoint. Okay. Go rate. So we have to figure it out too. So typically, if I get a secondary and the secondary comes back, because if you read the case of Spicer versus Allen, he did a secondary and we denied it. And this is why this case came back. He argued that his primary aggravated a non-service, and this is where the baseline came from. So if I get a denial on the secondary, I will ask for the non-aggravated service connection. I will go back and ask for that. Only though if it gets denied as a secondary. I do that. Not everybody does that. I do that.
Yes, so be clear when you're doing your claims. And I understand keeping it broad, but like Natural was just saying, you do want to drill down the issue that you're claiming. And if you can find a way, even if you don't know exactly what the disability is, but find a way where the records clearly show signs and symptoms if you don't know what the issue is. Let's say you maybe had chronic fatigue. You don't know what it is. You just knew you were tired for 6 months, or you were, I don't know, unable to move freely, or your joints were hurting. Like, you try to drill it down as best you can, so you're not leaving it into the hands of others to guess what it is that you're feeling.
All right, let's see here. How does the VA rating process work for veterans living overseas when local doctors may not understand VA terminology, DBQs, Nexus opinions, or how to properly document the severity of a condition? T. Hines, this is a great question.
From my understanding, I think, don't they go to the embassy and stuff like that to do these examinations when they're overseas?
Yes.
Yes, and even if they don't know the terminology, that's okay. You just need to make sure you're being seen for whatever that issue is, and that you are presenting with those symptoms so that we can look at it. Even if they have no clue what the VA process is like, you just make sure you get seen and that your symptoms are documented, because we're still able to do our work on the back end. You just have to make sure you're being seen.
Okay, I hope that works for you, T. Hines. Grace, great. You'll do it to Tara. Would bilateral plantar fibromatosis be secondary to pes plantis, or are they two separate claims?
No, no. They are.
That's the fastest I've heard you say no.
Yeah,
I was
that's
shocked.
one
I was
claim.
looking up like, what?
No, that's one claim.
Yeah, it's into me.
It would be treated for as an increase. It won't be a secondary. It'll be treated as an increase.
This is for FF. Had a CMP for sleep apnea. Then 2 weeks later, a different practitioner did a medical review and opinion for the same condition. Is that normal?
Well, some raters get a clarification opinion. Like if one examiner said one thing and the other one said another, they'll go ahead and get one to kind of like the tiebreaker. So that may be what happened in your case. It's not necessarily odd. It just depends on how the rater goes about their rating process.
Thank you, Natural and FF. Now I am more confident in filing moving forward. That is the aim over here on the HVB island.
So sometimes when we get a positive medical opinion and a negative medical opinion, we have to send it back because that's called conflicting. And so we have to send it back for what we call a reconciliation of medical evidence. Because if y'all looked at both, if y'all both seen the evidence, same evidence, why is one saying yes and one saying no? And so we have to, like FF said, basically send it back to get a tiebreaker. Now, sometimes that's done in error. Sometimes a VSR, for some reason, or our VSR didn't see the exam, or they didn't see something and they order another exam. And sometimes that's bad for the vet. And it just blows my mind sometimes that we'll have a positive opinion from the start, and somebody uploaded it and mislabeled it, and the rater didn't click on all the documents and say, oh, we don't have a medical opinion, but we did. And then they'll send and we'll get it, and then we have to keep sending it back because now we have a positive, and it's the way that y'all get frustrated, we do too. We do too.
Yeah, if I have one and let's say I have a positive and a negative, and if it's in equipoise, I apply benefit of the doubt. Assuming everything is balanced, I'll simply apply benefit of the doubt. I'll put that in the narrative, because what I don't want to happen is when the veteran gets their records, they're like, well, this one said no and this one said yes. What happened? Because I think a lot of them are looking for like a tiebreaker, but I don't do that. If the evidence I gave to each examiner was the same and they have conflicting opinions, the tie goes to the veteran every time.
Every time. She says it all the time. All right, let's keep going here. Well, in our defense, some of us Marines are Marines and lick the windows on the short bus, so it takes a while. Y'all, please don't get Natural started when she huffs them paws. It's
Oh my God, he had her down.
Listen, look at this comment. Natural, I can hear you saying, why are you here? I told you, you did not listen. Bye.
Yes, awesome, authentic. She just gives it to you.
Y'all
I
got
do it this way.
Good. Yeah, veteran, thank you. A good example to clear this up. If a secondary did not occur before the service connection occurred, baseline is when the secondary was diagnosed before the secondary condition. Thank you. Well, look what the cat done dragged in. Hello, where you been? What? What, Aaron? What you doing here? Would good grades from high school followed by very low grades at a service academy, followed by good grades at another university, be considered a marker evidence of a traumatic incident? So you got good grades in high school, followed by very low grades in the service academy, followed by good grades in another university, and you want to see if that will be considered a marker evidence of a traumatic
For
incident.
traumatic, it's a possibility,
Possibility.
and probably your evaluations, if there was a decline in, like if you had excellence, or you were getting rave reviews on your evaluation, and then the traumatic event happened, and then you started to see a decline in your
Mhm.
evaluations, and you had more extra duties and different counseling statements and stuff like that. Yes, you could use all of that as markers.
Excellent point. Okay, let's see what you're saying here. Bluebird. It's hard for a reserve guard member that never deployed stateside to get service connected for a disability. The only active duty info was just the 4 months IADT, which puts at a disadvantage. We have to jump through more hoops. The one big thing that saved me was submitting my retirement points for all my years of service, but there were injuries incurred during service. All right, thank you for that.
I
Radar.
I agree with the reserve and National Guard. I feel like there should be a disclaimer given to those folks when they come to, hey,
Yes,
you can
yes.
come to Reserve National Guard, but there's a possibility that you may not get no disability if you get hurt over here. But
Yeah. And
let me
report
say,
everything while you're there, guys. I know what the culture is, but you have to remember it's only one you. So if something happened, you need to report it. And if you're not comfortable doing it, on station, go off base and still get treatment, still get seen.
Mhm.
but it's not totally impossible for a reservist to
Yeah,
get not get service connected. We
yeah.
can, if we can determine that a condition, if a condition has a positive medical opinion, right? We can turn a period of IADT into active duty to grant. So
Mhm.
it ain't impossible. It's just the medical evidence has to be substantiated for us to do that. And a
And
lot of
treat
people
it.
segue into getting it is they do that famous hearing loss and tinnitus thing, and then
Mhm.
they lead into a mental through
Mhm.
tinnitus, and then it
Mhm.
just goes on
Goes
down,
from there.
that way.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not impossible, but if you are a reserves or National Guard and you don't have nothing, yes, it's very hard, 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 hard.
Ritter saying hi from Reno. Okay. Looks like you made it, and I
Oh,
hope that you're doing well. You made it in comfort, I hope. Everybody's saying hey to Ritter. Hey Benny, what's up? Natural and FF. Have you all ever given a rating more than 0% for PFB? So if you're waiting for the rating for the BPF, should I file a new claim for pest plantis? I'm green natural.
oh, yes, I've given more than 0% for that's pseudo folliculitis. That's the bar. When they get when they shave and
Okay.
they get the bumps. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen, but typically it goes on the percentage that you have on the
Mm-hmm.
day of the examination, the area and the total. So if you go and your face is just as clear, it's gonna be a 0. If you go and you may have like a 5%,
Mm-hmm.
of your face, there may be a bump here or there, they'll give you a less than 5%. The more breakouts you have, the greater the percentage of area that they're gonna say. Um for um for
So
is
if your
that
ratings are
bilateral
good.
plantar fasciitis, should you file a new claim for? um did you, for past plans, what are you trying to connect it to?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any complaints in service? Did you see a podiatrist in service? What are you trying to connect it to? Are you trying to connect it to your MOS? What I see a lot of people are trying to connect it due to physical trauma, like ruck marching,
Work marches,
PT, and
yes, yes, because they be like, oh, somebody else did it and they got ready, so why I can't do it? Yeah,
that's a toss up because I've seen it go
yeah.
both ways. I don't understand
Mhm.
it, but some people get it and some people don't.
Some people don't. Yep. Ritter is saying no baseline in service would need to be established and then a change shown. Good evening, HEB Natural FF. I hit the like button. Good. Thank you. All right. Well, Pastor Dougie Lyons, I know you not. No, no, Skins. We're not doing this tonight. Lying statements to Congress and us vets make him non-credible and very unbelievable. I cannot. I like people like natural, straight and to the point. Where this answering cooler than where I came from, if I'm being honest. Okay, let's see here. Scarring of the face is typically what gets higher than 0%. Thank you. I actually had PFB most of my career, but because I received laser treatment at the end of my career, I was denied for that particular condition.
You didn't have any scars or anything from
Let
that?
me
That's weird.
see how many
Cause
scars,
even,
correct? Do you got scars? Do you got scars?
cause
Um,
even if you have laser, I would assume that because some people have PFB bad and it does cause scarring, but the scarring is a combination of both. It's the scarring and if you have a um like some people have that pitting from it. Some people they still get it, the real bad. If they shave, they still
mhm,
get those
yeah.
bumps. So it's a combination of stuff. It ain't just the scarring, it's a combination. But the scarring will get you if it's painful and all that kind of stuff, and the pussing and all that.
I think I pretty much got most of the questions. I'm gonna be like right here. Sometimes I'm gonna have to skip through because these questions are starting to become quite a bit. So I think I went through all of the questions. I'm rolling back up, but I can't go all the way back up to the top because then I'm going to get lost because there were so many questions. But anyway, I think we got down to um okay, let's see here. No scars. Thankfully, I had a favorable finding. How would they determine if it's only like acne?
Those are typically kind of like the same way as PFB. So it depends on the amount that's exposed on the skin, where I think the minimum is under 5%. Is that right, Natural? And then the greater amount exposed, and depending on like if it's cystic type acne or if you have, you know, pus inside of it, things like that. So just depending on the severity of the acne. And then for those who are in Vietnam, I think it's chloracne that they may have had experienced. It's just different types of skin issues, and also the treatment that you take.
Mhm.
I had a psoriasis that I had to end up calling a Q for because they gave them 60%. And it was just topical only. So when you're in the exams, they ask you, how do you manage it? How do you maintain it? Because it's, different levels to what you do for treatment. And that also comes into play. Like, are you doing corticosteroids, different things like that.
On behalf of the E4 Mafia and the rest of us in the back, we truly appreciate all the information you guys are bringing, not just tonight, but all the time. Okay, we love the E4 Mafia down. Okay. I only got it because the drill instruction made me shave in the Marine Corps boot camp, but before that, my face was smooth. Okay. Let's see. I'm so glad that multiple profiles 3 saved me, including a thorough statement from a 12-mile march for plantar fasciitis, MTSS throughout my service career, which ended up getting service connected for. Okay, that is awesome. Big time. A lot of information being shared this evening. Much appreciated. Guys, it's certainly been a pleasure to have FF and Natural back. They deserve a break every now and then while we cut up over here at the cookout. Most of the time, we bring red cups, and it's usually a time that we do have, but they deserve a break every now and then. I'm wearing boots. I had 2 CMP exams for BPF/foot pain, but the first CMP didn't see my in-service sick call for my feet. So I filed a supplemental claim, and now I'm waiting for the results. I have several. I guess she typing something out.
Yeah, if we messed that up, if it was in the record and never mind. She's already filed a supplemental, or he or she already filed it.
File a supplemental. Remember, you guys, we had a conversation, and I don't know how many of you guys were here, where we talked about the benefits of a lower level review before going the supplemental route, or before using up your what I call them, using up your chances at getting something, right? So if you know for a fact that you have these records, they overlooked it or whatever, a notice of disagreement could sometimes solve a lot of the things. But you guys be so quick to jump to a HLI. I ain't never seen a bunch of people, and I have to close my eyes. Like, y'all sense me. Like, jump to a higher level review so quick. It irks me some. And I'm like, this could have been fixed with a lower level review. Like, why you file a high level review? Nobody really pays attention to the notice of disagreement. A notice of disagreement could save y'all a lot of heartache if you just listen to what we are saying. Sometimes I don't think y'all be listening.
They're getting better. They're getting better. I'm really proud.
They're getting better, but I'm gonna need y'all to come through a little bit better. Okay. Let's see where you put your other part, PMCH. I don't see it. What up, Thomas? How are you? Always a pleasure to have FF and Natural. FF, how's your journey with studying?
Oh my God, it's very long, but I'm going to be happy in the end because it's going to be really good for a veteran. So it'll be good.
See if you can get the medical records. Would y'all suggest submitting all docs for a claim through Quick Submit online, mail, or fax? It's only 14 pages. If you don't upload that stuff with your claim, some Quick Submit. Let's talk about this question right here. FF, I'm going to give you this question to explain what a lower level review is.
So that's just going to be just a notice of disagreement. You're going to say, I submitted my claim for migraines and the examiner didn't take into account my migraine log or my excuses showing where I missed work. So instead of filing a HLR, your high level review, because you only get to do one of those for the claim, you can file the notice of disagreement and just simply point out what we missed. It's pretty much the same thing, except it's probably going to be done a lot faster, and you can just go ahead and get it resolved. You're going to say you didn't look, or either you overlooked my migraine log and my excuses from work. You only gave me 10% for migraines, and this clearly warrants 50, and then we can go ahead and fix it for you. It doesn't waste the HLR or your high level review that you could use for something else.
What form do you put the lower level review?
So you could put it on an 0995, or you could, well, I'm just going to say 0995. But you could also call Tyrone and say,
827.
yeah, you can do that too, and just say that you disagree with the evaluation assigned.
Did that answer your question, Erin?
Or you disagree with the decision. It doesn't have to be the evaluation, sorry. It could be the decision or the evaluation.
So I have another question. Can you challenge a reduction with a lower level review?
Well, what you could do is when they do the reduction, you get the option with the 60 days that says, you are eligible for a hearing. So you say, yeah, sure, I want to do the hearing.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to the hearing, it's going to give you the opportunity to present your case, and you're going to say why you disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Also, at the hearing, you can opt for an informal conference. And I am a fan of the informal conference because it's a lot faster and we don't have to wait for transcripts to come back. Your transcripts are going to take at a minimum 60 to 70 days to come back after you have the hearing. But if you said you want the hearing and we're reducing your migraines from 50 to 10 because you went to an examination and they said that you were better. If it's just one time, we aren't supposed to do that. That's wrong. And we are able to go ahead and fix it because it can't just be a one-time showing. It has to be consistent, like through the regular course of your life.
Yes.
So if a reduction does happen for that reason, definitely go for your hearing so that we can fix that. And we may even catch it prior to and fix it for you. But yes, you can challenge it in that way. Just make sure you have your evidence in case we got it wrong. And then if we made a mistake and we over evaluated it and we're correcting it, it's probably not a whole lot that's going to be able to change that decision. But if you do have evidence that we can overturn it, then definitely present that. But yes, to answer the question, you can challenge it.
All right. So it looks LA5 just requested a lower level review today. All right.
They're doing good.
All right, Grace, you got that annotated that you're going to do it on an 0995, or you can call 1-800-827-1000 and let them know that you are challenging what they have said. Okay. So FF, can they put it on a 21-4138 as well?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
But what will probably happen is they'll send out a form and say request for application, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to say yes because we know what the intent is. But that's just me. What would you do, Natural?
A notice of disagreement is a 0958. 21-0958. But yeah, they probably would. If you send in a 4138, they're gonna probably ask you for a request, do a RFA for you. But if you have a VSO, they can help you with that, or a person help you with your claim. But just be sure that when you do the notice of disagreements, you have evidence as to why. Don't just be like, "Cause y'all denied me." You gotta have the evidence or discuss the evidence on why you feel this is inadequate or wrong.
Yeah.
Not just because you got a denial.
All right, let's see here. Marla, the story for the Guards Reserve, save your profile, seek treatment when you sustain an injury, especially if you are ABT and get an LOD, it will save you in the end. Thank you. Natural and FF, are the tinnitus OSA claims coming in fast and furious? And if so, how many would you estimate are being granted versus denied? Skins be always going down to the bayou.
They definitely
Skins
come
be
in
want-
fast and furious, hot. They're everywhere.
Skins be always going down to the bayou. Oh, JJ, thank you for this your donation. Skins always want her to say, y'all coming in with the questions at the end. AF Veteran is also a rater. Read your notification letter as well. They may be an invitation to claim something the RVSR found in your service treatment records. Sick call for PFB and active in AD. Now I have to wear a beard. I cannot shave. On AD, when I was going to sick call, I was told to use magic shave. Now I can't use that. I remember that magic shave. Was that thing in that can that they used to mix up? Is that what magic shave is? That that thing in the can, the green can you mixed up. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what it was in the black and gold can. I remember
Oh,
black and gold, but it stinks.
Thank you, Bluebird. Great job. I'll be at Reno this weekend to check out the scene at the VFW National Convention, leaving out tomorrow night. Interesting.
Awesome.
It's less risky than a higher level.
Well, I won't say like risky or not. It'll get done faster. And like on a few occasions where like the veteran will call in and they'll say, I disagree with the rating. And this just could be because they didn't know to write it on the 0995 or whatever the form is, because sometimes they'll send it in as a personal statement, and then that's the RFA or the request for application, which says use this form. But if depending on how much time, and here lately we don't have a whole lot of time, but I used to be able to call and have the veteran walk through the steps so they can go ahead and submit the form so we could go ahead and get it done. But current administration, we don't have a whole lot of time to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be best if you could just, go ahead and do it and have it spelled out. I disagree with the evaluation because XYZ. Generally speaking, we understand what it is that you're wanting from us.
Mm-hmm.
And because we don't want to unnecessarily burden the veteran, we're able to say, hey, let's send out this form. This is what their intent is. Mm-hmm. But there's no risk. It'll get done faster. And then you can save that higher level review for something else that, is a little bit more important.
Yeah.
Is how I would say that.
I don't want to give you myself, but something crazy dropped in VA disability. Oh, I know what it is. It's crazy. I'll let him drop it. I'll talk about it later. Garrett's popcorn in Chicago is everything. Do you hear me? It is everything. Every time my sister, my brother-in-law go to Chicago, they can't come back home without popcorn. They cannot. HBB Natural, we appreciate it. Hope you have a great weekend. Let's see. Okay. 0995. Let's see. There's a way I heard you earlier. Heat wave. Magic shave is old school. It sure is. It sure is. Actually, I do have a plan to attend a couple of conventions, but I got my broke best friend over there that got to go to school. So I got to be in mom mode. So I have to go on a convention when I have a break. And school is getting ready to start with this convention. So I got to be in mom mode over here. I'm gonna be working this weekend, but I have time off starting Monday. I'll try to make it out there. Yeah, I have to take some time to go to a convention, but I don't know if I could take it with a whole bunch of people. Ready got to take pills. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm going to be downtown in the lobby walking around the casino circus in about 10 minutes. So if you guys want to see Raider, he's walking around, and you guys can go on over and meet him and have a good time over there in Reno in the heat wave. But stay cool and drink water.
Raider came out the house. What?
Beat the heat, drill sergeant. Beat the heat.
Reno at the DFW convention this weekend in Arizona. Yeah, Raider came out the house. Let's see here. Is the HLR the highest? I remember you saying you can't do an HLR and an HLR. You can't.
You can't, but you can do a BVA.
You can go to the highest of the Supreme Court, but you can go up there to the BVA. Go on up there to the BVA.
25 billion years. Yeah, you can go over.
I guess Reddit's saying that no one knows what he looks like. So I guess you might need to give them a description in the comments so they can know what you look like. So the next step after HLR is the BVA, right? So that's where you go. You cannot do an HLR or an HLR.
And I think that's form 10182 or something, I think. But it'll be at the bottom of the narrative. So make sure you all read it. It'll tell you which forms are required.
For the BVA, you said? Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Old decision forms 21-09
10182
legacy claims with the rating decision before February 19, 2019. Okay, let's see here. Rita says you can't do a car on an HLR. Yeah.
Can do a car, yeah.
And that's a claims accuracy request.
Yes, a car is a claim adversary request. Can veterans submit an old C&P as evidence? Y'all pushing it.
Is that new and relevant?
And it has to be both new and relevant.
Y'all pushing it. Y'all pushing it. Huh. She just Red Team Logic FF just told you what was a car. Did you hear?
Tell them again, FF.
It's a claims accuracy request.
You got it? Anyway, y'all, I've been here longer than I should be. I came for a good time, but I didn't want to stay for a long time. And these ladies worked in the queue today, and they actually need their rest so they can get back in the queue Monday. Yes, and we're going to do a live about that skins later. Okay, we're gonna do the press conference about the Major Richard Starr Act and stuff. What did you say? That's old and relevant.
I mean, you can submit what you like, but please let it be new and relevant so you won't get a decision letter
Black
that
shirt,
says it's
dirty
not
jeans,
reopened.
and look homeless. I can't with y'all. Yes, Magic Shave is old school, but the problem started when I was forced to dry shave in BT. I had a beard at my CMP. Should I file a supplemental claim for HR? Yeah, excuse my daughter squealing because I know she's playing Roblox over there. Yes, Magic Shave is old school, but the problem started when I was forced to dry shave. I had a beard at your CMP. Should you file a supplemental?
So the supplemental will require new
Relevant
and
evidence.
relevant evidence. But if you had it in service and you still have the symptoms from it, did we overlook something at the examination? A supplemental may not be required.
Mhm. We really cracking up. Desert Trader, have a good night. Desert Trader, have a good night. We really cracking up on a Friday night. I'm here for it. We always have a good time. Is it normal for HLR CMP exam scheduled for 30 minutes that end up being 6 minutes bad? No. They might have all they needed, so they barely asked a couple questions. Because sometimes examiners go through your record and are able to answer some questions before you even get there, right? So that means that they really went through your record and they can answer some questions. So it's not always a bad time. If it was scheduled for 30 minutes, that ends up 6 minutes. It could be good, it could be bad, but they could have had most of the information and they only had to ask you a couple of questions. So instead of wasting your time, they did some research. What say you, ladies?
Just make sure your evidence supports whatever that claim is. That's all I have.
That's it. Anything natural for the people before we go?
Come on,
Good
now.
night.
Give me some-
When you keep it straight and to the point.
I said good night. I'm tired.
See, and when you're not here, baby, where's natural? Where's that? Where?
I'm
Why you
tired.
ever? See,
Listen.
yeah. She said, "I said good night. I'm tired." See, I be giving her rest. All right, let's see here. All right, everyone. Thank you. Have an awesome weekend. Much love to care. Thank you, Grace. All right, guys. It's definitely a pleasure to have FF and Natural here with us. Probably tomorrow night, I'll do a live on Major Richard Starr Act and VFW and what Blumenthal said and what the plan is going to be to find some money from the DOD to fund the Major Richard Starr Act. But we are talking tonight secondary conditions, so we will stick with that. Anyway, thank you, FF and Natural, as always, for coming here and giving us your knowledge and understanding and what is happening with the different changes. And we'll figure out what we are talking about. And definitely, we have to do a denial letter review. We are at the end of July and I have not put it together. But anyway, we'll get together. As always, guys, stay informed, stay empowered, keep advocating for yourself. And you definitely know that we're advocating for you. So I will see you guys. And yes, Craig, I know I do have to go to bed. See you guys maybe tomorrow, but definitely on Sunday night. Have an amazing weekend. Stay safe, be kind to each other, and share this with a veteran. Like, subscribe, and share. Take care, guys. Love you much. Bye.
You're not alone, you got a voice. Stand strong, stay informed.